80,000 people were singing along, until Michael Jackson dropped his microphone and saw that little girl crying on stage. It was July 16, 1988. Wembley Stadium. The second night of what would become the most legendary concert series in music history. Michael Jackson's Bad World Tour had already broken every record imaginable, but nothing could have prepared anyone for what was about to unfold under the bright London lights. The energy was electric. From the moment Michael appeared in that iconic sparkly glove, the crowd had been in a state of pure euphoria. Billie Jean had sent shockwaves through the stadium. Beat It had turned 80,000 people into a synchronized dancing army. And now, as the opening notes of She's Out of My Life began to play, something magical was happening. This wasn't just any song. This was Michael's most vulnerable moment, the one track that consistently brought him to tears during live performances. The crowd knew it too. As his voice began to soar over the melody, thousands of lighters flickered to life, creating a sea of stars in the darkness. But tonight would be different. Tonight, Michael Jackson would do something that no one in that stadium would ever forget. Michael Jackson had stopped singing mid-sentence. The arena fell into a deathly silence. 7-year-old Emma Richardson had been fighting leukemia for 2 years. Her parents had spent their life savings on treatments, had watched their daughter endure chemotherapy sessions that would break a grown man, had held her through nights when the pain was so intense she couldn't sleep. The Make-A-Wish Foundation had contacted Michael's team months earlier. Emma's only wish wasn't for a toy or a trip. She wanted to meet Michael Jackson. She wanted to tell him that his music was the only thing that made her feel normal when everything else in her life felt broken. Michael's management had arranged for Emma and her family to have front row seats. But what they hadn't planned for was what happened when Michael looked down from the stage during his most emotional song and saw a little girl in the front row, tears streaming down her face, holding a handmade sign that simply read, "Thank you for making me brave." The microphone slipped from Michael's fingers. For a moment that felt like eternity, 80,000 people watched as the king of pop stood frozen, staring at this small figure in the crowd. Then he did something unprecedented. He walked to the edge of the stage, knelt down, and extended his hand to Emma. Security moved to intervene, but Michael's other hand went up, stopping them. The band continued playing softly, but everyone knew something extraordinary was happening. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Michael's voice, though unamplified, somehow carried across the silent stadium. Emma could barely speak. "Emma," she whispered. "Emma," Michael repeated, and then he did something that no one expected. He jumped down from the stage. Subscribe and comment now, because what happened next will show you why Michael Jackson was more than just an entertainer. The crowd gasped as Michael Jackson, in the middle of his own concert, sat down on the concrete floor in front of the stage. Emma's parents tried to speak, to explain about the leukemia, about the treatments, about how their daughter's heroes had become her medicine. But Michael already understood. He had seen something in Emma's eyes that transcended words. "You know what, Emma?" Michael said, taking her small hand in his. "I was just thinking that this song sounds better when it's sung with a friend. Would you like to be my friend tonight?" Emma nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. "Can you help me finish this song?" What happened next defied every rule of live performance. Michael Jackson, still sitting on the ground, began to sing "She's Out of My Life" again, but this time directly to Emma. His voice was softer, more intimate than it had ever been recorded. But here's where the story becomes truly incredible. Behind the scenes, Michael Jackson was making a decision that would shock everyone on his team. As he sang to Emma, Michael noticed something else. In her small hand, she was clutching a worn cassette tape of Thriller. The plastic case was cracked, the label was faded, but she held it like it was the most precious thing in the world. "Is that your favorite album?" Michael asked between verses. Emma nodded. "I listen to it every night in the hospital. It makes me feel like dancing, even when I can't get out of bed." Michael looked at that cassette tape, this physical symbol of how his music had become medicine for a child fighting for her life, and made a decision that no one saw coming. He took off his iconic sequined glove, the one that had become his signature, that was worth thousands of dollars, that was insured for concerts just like this one. "I want you to have this," he said, placing the glove gently in Emma's free hand. "But only if you promise me something." Emma's eyes grew wide. "Promise me you'll keep dancing. Even when it's hard. Even when you don't feel like it. Promise me you'll remember that you're braver than you know." The stadium had been silent for nearly 10 minutes. 80,000 people watching this intimate moment between a superstar and a sick child. But as Emma nodded and whispered, "I promise," something magical began to happen. One person in the crowd started clapping. Then another. Then a section. Within seconds, the entire stadium was on its feet, applauding not for Michael Jackson the performer, but for Michael Jackson the human being. Michael stood up, still holding Emma's hand, and helped her climb onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said into the microphone, "I'd like you to meet my friend Emma. She's going to help me finish this song." What followed was the most emotionally charged performance of "She's Out of My Life" ever captured on film. Michael sang the verses while Emma, still clutching his glove, stood beside him. When they reached the chorus, her small voice joined his, and 80,000 people sang along. By the end of the song, there wasn't a dry eye in Wembley Stadium. But the story doesn't end there. What happened next would change both of their lives forever. After the concert, Michael didn't just disappear to his dressing room like usual. Instead, he spent 2 hours with Emma and her family backstage. They talked about her treatment, about her dreams, about her favorite songs. Michael gave her his personal phone number and told her to call him whenever she needed a friend. Over the next 3 years, as Emma continued her fight against leukemia, Michael called her every month. When she was too sick to come to the phone, he would leave messages singing her favorite songs. When she had to undergo particularly difficult treatments, packages would arrive at the hospital, sometimes toys, sometimes handwritten notes, sometimes rare recordings that no one else had ever heard. Emma kept that sequined glove with her through every chemotherapy session, every surgery, every moment when the doctors weren't sure she would make it. She would hold it and remember Michael's words, "You're braver than you know." Share this story and subscribe, because Emma's journey with that glove will restore your faith in humanity. In 1991, Emma Richardson was declared cancer-free. The first call she made was to Michael Jackson. "I kept my promise," she told him. "I kept dancing." Michael cried on the phone. Later, he would say in interviews that meeting Emma had changed him as both a performer and a person. It reminded him that his music wasn't just entertainment, it was medicine, hope, and healing for people going through the darkest moments of their lives. The sequined glove became Emma's most treasured possession. But she didn't keep it in a display case or treat it as a collector's item. True to her promise to Michael, she carried it with her to every important moment in her life. When she graduated high school, the glove was in her purse. When she went to college to study pediatric nursing, inspired by the doctors who had saved her life, the glove was with her. When she got married in 2003, she carried it instead of a traditional, something old. And when she opened her own pediatric cancer ward in 2009, she placed the glove in a special case in the children's play area, with a plaque that read, "For all the children who are braver than they know. Keep dancing." Michael Jackson and Emma Richardson. Emma estimates that over 3,000 children have held that glove during their treatment. Each one learns the story of the night when Michael Jackson stopped his concert for a little girl who needed to know she wasn't alone. When Michael Jackson passed away in 2009, Emma was among the thousands who gathered outside the hospital. But unlike the others who brought flowers or posters, Emma brought something different. She brought a letter she had written to Michael years earlier but never sent. In it, she had tried to explain how that night at Wembley had saved her life in ways that had nothing to do with medicine. How knowing that someone as famous and busy as Michael Jackson could stop everything for one scared little girl had given her the strength to believe she could overcome anything. The letter ended with these words, you taught me that the most important thing we can do in this world is to see someone who is hurting and choose to help them, even when it's inconvenient, even when it interrupts our plans, even when no one is watching. Thank you for seeing me that night. Thank you for showing me how to see others." That letter is now part of the Michael Jackson estate archives, preserved alongside his most important personal documents. But Emma's story continued. In 2015, she was invited to speak at a conference for childhood cancer survivors. Instead of talking about medical breakthroughs or survival statistics, she told the story of the night Michael Jackson jumped off the stage for a little girl with a worn-out cassette tape. "He could have had security remove me," she said. "He could have ignored me and continued with his show. He could have sent an assistant to give me an autograph later. But instead, he chose to see me. Really see me. And in that moment of being truly seen by someone I admired so much, I learned something that no doctor or medicine could teach me: I mattered." The speech went viral. Within weeks, Emma was receiving messages from parents of sick children all over the world, asking if their kids could visit her pediatric ward, if they could see the glove, if she could tell them Michael's story in person. That's when Emma realized that the promise she had made to Michael that night wasn't just about her own dancing. It was about helping other children find their own rhythm, their own reason to keep moving forward. Today, the Emma Richardson Pediatric Cancer Center treats over 500 children annually. Every child who enters the facility hears the story of Michael Jackson's glove. They learn about the night when the biggest star in the world stopped everything to comfort one frightened little girl. And every child leaves with a small replica of that sequined glove, along with a card that reads, "Keep dancing. You're braver than you know." The original glove remains in the children's ward, behind glass but still accessible. Children undergoing treatment often ask to hold it during their chemotherapy sessions. Parents report that their kids' pain seems more manageable when they're connected to Michael's story, to Emma's promise, to this physical reminder that they are seen, they are valued, and they are not alone. Emma, now a leading pediatric oncologist, often tells new families that the glove isn't magical. It's something much more powerful than magic. It's proof that compassion is contagious, that kindness can be inherited, and that one moment of genuine human connection can ripple forward through decades, touching thousands of lives. The night Michael Jackson froze mid-song and jumped off the stage for a crying little girl lasted maybe 15 minutes. But the love, hope, and healing that began in those 15 minutes is still spreading today, one child, one family, one moment of genuine care at a time. That's Michael Jackson's real legacy, not just the music that made us dance, but the reminder that we all have the power to stop our own show, to see someone who is hurting, and to choose love over convenience. In 2018, nearly 30 years after that night at Wembley, Emma received an unexpected phone call. It was from Janet Jackson, Michael's sister, who had heard about the pediatric center and Emma's work. Janet wanted to visit, to see the glove, to meet the children who were carrying on her brother's legacy of compassion. When Janet arrived at the center, she brought something special, a recording that had never been released publicly. It was Michael, sometime in the early 1990s, talking about that night at Wembley. "I was supposed to perform for 80,000 people that night," Michael's voice said on the recording. "But it turned out I was really there to perform for just one. Emma taught me that sometimes the most important audience is an audience of one. She reminded me why I do what I do. It's not about the applause or the awards. It's about connection. It's about letting someone know they're not alone." The recording continued, "Every time I step on stage now, I look for the Emma in the crowd. There's always someone who needs to know they matter. My job isn't just to entertain. It's to heal. It's to remind people that they're stronger than they think they are." Janet played this recording for the children in the ward. When it ended, she looked at Emma and said, "You saved my brother's soul that night, and he saved yours. That's what real love looks like." Emma Richardson kept her promise. She kept dancing. And she's teaching others to dance too. The glove remains in the children's ward, a testament to the night when the king of pop remembered that the most important crown anyone can wear is compassion. Subscribe to hear more stories of how music becomes medicine, and how small acts of compassion create eternal change.